I
Welcome,
like that. I like that.
great Tuesday. Welcome to Learning How to Be Fully Human. I'm your host, King. I'm joined by my co-host, Nkenge. How you doing today, Nkenge?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. What's your spiritual energy number?
You already know my spiritual energy number, but if you want me to share it with the audience, I am a 10. Like you always say, there's no other reason to be anything other than that. And anytime I'm not that, I'm striving to be that.
I heard that. Well,
And what about you?
I match you. My spiritual energy number is a 10 as well, and living with gratitude. And let me take a moment to explain what I mean by that. I take a lot of assumptions by saying that so many times throughout my life for the last 10 or 15 years. I forget some people don't understand the context of that question. So when I ask that question, what's your spiritual energy number? It's a choice between 0 being life sucks to 10 being life is awesome. Now, you can choose any number you want in between, and it's really in that moment, not in your entire life or that day. It's really that moment before we get started with the meeting or the podcast or what have you. And the reason I ask that is because I've learned through the years if a person is a 6 or 5 really or less, then they're not going to be as present. They're not going to be engaged, and they may even be antagonistic. And their shadow self is there, is their probably dominant identity, and it's not going to be their best representation of who they are. So it's best to reschedule even right there and then go through the meeting and risk the chance of that person not bringing their best self. And the other part to it is, which we're gonna get into our next, which is our gratitude list. What we say for the gratitude list is so key to being a 10 because once you go through your gratitude list every morning, which I do, my things that I'm grateful for, which are, for example, my ability to see, hear, walk, talk, stand, breathe, and have a sound mind, my ability to be awake today, my ability to have a roof over my head, food to eat, my problems in my life that I see opportunities through those for growth, the people who lift me up, and the things I'm working on to help others, my ability to continue to be locked into my purpose and live in a state of gratitude. That's what I'm grateful for. And I'm asking Kendra what she's grateful for next. But before I do that, I wanted to say, once I go through that list, how can I be less than a 10? So that's the logic behind it. I just want to share that with people. So with that being said, and Kendra, what's your gratitude list this morning?
I'm going to, before I go through mine, I'm going to challenge you to help me think through this just a little bit. In the whole premise of being fully human, if a person is a 5, could that be an opportunity to finish the meeting to see how you can support them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and you bring a different thought process to it. You know, they bring that feminine energy to that scenario. And you're absolutely right. That could be a great opportunity to do that. But I would suggest that you shift your focus of what the meeting was going to be about and you use that as that intent there.
Absolutely. Because I think that when I think of moments, as you were saying that, it took me back to moments that I didn't quite feel like I was a 10 before meetings. And it had absolutely nothing. It was just maybe an isolated situation. So while I'm typically a 10, right, there may be things that happen in life where, maybe, and as I'm learning and growing like that, all of the moments we that we get together aren't always aligned to be what we think they are, right? Like, so I think about some of those times where you and I have had discussions where, our meeting started out one way, but we went down a 3-hour rabbit hole, but it was what each of us may have needed. So I just, as you were saying, and I didn't think about it until just now. So back to my gratitude, I am grateful for, and then I'll let you respond. But just to answer your question, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for life. I am grateful for this podcast that's been taking so long to come about, and not from I I'm so appreciative of it finally happening. Um, and it was not because of any one particular thing, but I'm grateful because, like, this is the best timing for me for it to happen, right? Like, the space that I'm in right now, the way that I'm operating, the the self development that I'm doing on myself, this could not have happened any sooner than now. And so I'm grateful for this podcast. I'm grateful for even my title. Like last week, I would have been founder of learning how child development. This week, I am a brain architect. Like, like it's just my wheels are flowing in this space of learning and growing, evolving on my 180-day journey. Every day is a different day of me becoming, learning how to be fully human. And so I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for my business. I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for nature. I'm grateful for plants. I'm super. I don't want to use the word. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and use. This is where I am now. I'll learn. I'll grow next week some more. But I'm super excited about observing how the universe continues to align. And it's just been wonderful. Like every day, my steps have been ordered in a way that it's just all making sense. And everything that I don't know that's not quite making sense yet, I'm okay. I'm at a peace and calm about when it will make sense if it does ever. But okay, so that's my long but short gratitude.
Well, gratitude for sharing that. And let me address my comments to what you said as well. I think that there's two ways I view that. I think what you're saying is absolutely right. There is no wrong answer or right answer from my perspective. There's just how we see it. And I see it from a context that, to your point, if a person's coming in to that meeting, that podcast, or whatever that event, you ask that question, what's your spiritual energy number to get an answer from? And they could have just literally got cut off in traffic, right? And that just ruined their moment. And they spilled coffee on their suit and all that, right? So they coming in with that energy right before the podcast, and they come right to the studio or right to the meeting. And so that's what I'm saying. If they say they have 5 because of that, that's what I'm saying. It's best, because I don't know if you're going to get it. Now, if you want to invest, and that's where the difference between you and I, if you want to invest the energy to increase their energy because you know them well enough, that's a different story. Now, with somebody who I can give grace to that I know, like you, then I know that that's not your default number. So I can give you grace, and then we can work together to try to lift your spirits up and get you at that 10, which I know that's your natural state. But if I don't know you, and that question is coming from just my general curiosity, and you say a 10 because you saying I spent coffee on my suit, this person cuts me off in traffic, and my assistant didn't get this meeting scheduled, so I had to rush here at the last minute. So they bring all their energy. I don't want to have a podcast with them, right? I don't even want to do anything with them at that stage. I think that's reschedule, let you deal with all what you're dealing with, because that's going to be the best result for us both.
I love that discernment. So you're right. You're absolutely right. I appreciate that clarity. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you for discerning that way.
And but you bring up an excellent point though, because what's interesting is that I've been on this quest of understanding sacred geometry, and that's what I want to talk about on our show today. As we talk about learning how to be more fully human, how sacred geometry plays a role in our humanity, in our essence, and our spirituality, in our lives in general. And so much so that I've actually written a song about called Sacred Geometry, because I've been wanting to really learn it, and the song made me have to focus and really delve deeper into it to try to figure out how to say it rhythmically in a poem format, and then bring it out in essence that's going to be entertaining enough. So that's a challenge, but I wanted that challenge. But my point is, I talk about in the song of Sacred Geometry, which I want to go here now because you mentioned this earlier to show how the universe works. You mentioned observing, and see, the self triad is the first triangle that each person has, and the top of the triangle is the observer, and that's you as the observer. And then you have the bottom of the triangle, the left and the right, the male and the female, and those two energies. And the observer understands how to use those two energies and work with those energies, but without the observer, those two energies end up being a war and a skull. And that's what the construct does to us when we infants. It takes the observer out of the triad, and you left with either the dominant male or the dominant female energy. And that's not good for our soul. We need that observer to be able to understand that when thoughts come up, we can literally, like Alan Watts say, it's treated as a cloud just passing by. You don't have to react to that thought. Yes, that's a thought there. Yes, it's late. Yes, someone hit your car. Yes, they didn't call you back. Yes, your your boss is an idiot, but do you need to grab that thought, respond on it, and then act on it and let yourself go down a rabbit hole of that? And that's the difference. It's just observing. Oh, yeah, he's an idiot. Okay. What's next thought? Like it's a cloud, right? So observing that is a key thing. And that's what I want to kind of build in today's conversation about sacred geometry and then observing that dominant male and female energy. Because I believe as we grow up, like I said, children come here as a loving bundle and they're working with them and they get immediately programmed by the construct to one of those definite divisive sides and told this is how you must behave and act, even though they still trying to get understanding of just their spiritual essence.
I'm going to eventually be at a place where when the universe aligns things up the way that they do, that I'm not going to be in this much awe, right? My first thing so when you just initially said something about sacred geometry, a little bit of fear jumped into my heart because I was like, I don't know enough about sacred geometry to start, to have that conversation. However, what you described and what you just said was on my first part of my notes. I am right where the construct begins, and I am right where it can be interrupted. Right. So, and so this totally is aligned with what I was going to talk about. Even though I got a little fearful of the sacred geometry piece, right? I was like, I got a little more homework to do with that. I know the numbers. I know how, in theory, but but I know my world, right? And so that was where I was going to start, because by the time children turn 5, 90% of their brain is developed, right? And so that means the construct doesn't start in adulthood. And that was where I wanted to go there, right? Because that's how critical the work that we do, learning how early childhood development is. You have to be that intentional to design encounters that expand their identity before the world tries to get in it. And that was I had that scribbled today, because as I'm watching, in my office, I can see the whole child care center and everybody having a good time. Sidebar, our next center, I want to be up so that I can see like the whole thing. Like I want like like on the Wizard of Oz, but I'll go down the rabbit hole. But anyway, um um be but before the world tries to shrink them, that this is the so I'm grateful that you're about to have this conversation. Although I don't know sacred geometry that well, I'm very familiar with early childhood education. So let's delve right into it, because our we're definitely aligned.
And we're going to talk about it from this standpoint as well. See, people got to understand when you look at concepts, if you look at them through the constructs lens of do you understand it, where you're trying to remember, regurgitate someone else's theories and logic, and then you don't really apply it, I don't see the value of that. I see the value of understanding enough of it to the point where you can apply it in your life, and that's all it comes from. Then you explain it in your way, right? Somebody who comes from a mathematical background and calculus and all these other areas, geometry, they're not gonna like my explanation of sacred geometry. And I really don't care. It's my understanding of how triads, triangles work in my life, and that's what's clarity to me, and that gives me action towards that, as opposed to just being a scholar about the subject matter. Now, with that being said, looking at how it fits into our life, see, triads is how we really should function as human beings. So that's how we are made to be. For example, the pyramids is a triangle, and it's been here and been built for over thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And we see it. Some folks say 7,000, depending on what you study, but it's definitely been thousands, which is agreed upon thought processes related to it, whether it's science or religion. It's definitely been thousands of years that the pyramids have been here, and we still can't duplicate the technology of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the importance of the triangle, and the fact that the Masonic orders the triangle 33, right? Jesus lived to be 33. So these numbers have a significant reason and our lives and who we are, but we've been taught by the construct, and the signal has been interrupted by the construct that we don't understand this, and we treat math as something that's difficult and hard because the way it's been taught to us as opposed to the way we actually have to live. So if math became a way that we lived our lives, we would not look at it and would not receive it as something that's difficult to learn. But if it's just something that's just numbers, just one of the subjects on your 5 scheduled day, and you can pick and choose. Well, I like math, and I don't like math, but I like English and history, etc. And that's all math is to you. It's just a topic or a subject in your school. Then you're not going to understand how these numbers play a significant role in our lives, and then to the act of manifestation, which you want in your life, and having a life that you want to live.
I agree. I agree. Um, I think, and most people talk theory. They talk, and I realize in my own self discovery, my own self work, is that like the intentionality behind living the things that you learn is a whole nother
You got frozen up though in Kenya. I mean, you got frozen up there a little in Kenya. That's what I mean to say. So while she's frozen until she gets unfrozen, I'm gonna continue to keep talking through the show and hope she'll understand that she is frozen at this moment. But what we're talking about, as she said, oh, you're back now.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's a whole
No
nother
problem.
element to life. Like my Wi-Fi always decides to act crazy on the recorded message. It doesn't do it on no other meetings but the ones that are being recorded. But anyway, so yeah, like that the implementation of whatever it is that you learn is a whole nother chapter, right? I've been doing a lot of spiritual work for a long time. I've read books that only started resonating with me at this point in my life, right? That I read 15 years ago. And I'm rereading them now because I remember how those nuggets were are being applied in my life now. But yeah, that was pretty much all I wanted to add to that.
Well, you reminded me of a quote. I know we have an echo. Um, I have an echo when I talk, but you remind me of a quote when you talked about that Faye Lou Hammer has said. She says that my prayers didn't get answered until I got up off my knees. Meaning
Hmm.
that, okay, yeah, I was on my knees and I said a prayer, but it's going to have to be my action that brings that prayer into fruition.
And look
And
how her
that's
words continued to resound from your picture behind you through you.
absolutely right. That's the thing. It's like that keeps me aligned with my ancestors, and they speak to everybody who looks at that picture and my background the entire time. They're representing with me.
Right.
They're my counsel, right? Because you can learn from their bravery and the choices they made at their times when doing that during that particular era, how they were dealing with the constructs, issues, and drainages, and still how they still performed and stepped up to the plate. And my my final piece I want to rest on, I want to get your thoughts on this. So it was interesting. I was watching this show that we both like called The Big C. And there's this scene in the show, which I'm not going to tell you the exact scene, but it's something that happened that made me have to pause the show and really do some deep introspective analysis on a statement that one of the characters made. And so that forced me to do some research. And I didn't come back to the show to a good 3 hours later because I was really down this thought process of, wow, this is really something to be mindful of. And what it hit me was thinking about what Eckhart Tolle teaches with this the power of now, living in now, and all of that. And people say that, and it sounds good, but what does that really look like when you say you live in the now, right? When you talk to always strive toward goals, always have future plans, and we have calendars for that purpose. We live in the future, right? Everything is let's schedule this, let's schedule that. So our thought process is constantly there. And now you're saying, I gotta live in the now. I don't know what that means for most people, right? So I've learned what that means. And what that means is that when you understand this in the true total essence of this statement, that my life is no more important than anyone else's in the community. Meaning that it's not so much about protecting my life from death. when I die, I die. My life is no more important than anyone else's in the community. And people die every day. That's just a process. What you want to hope is that you've established enough seeds that you are able to live through others through the seeds you planted in their minds. That's a hope. That's the most you can hope, like a Bob Marley has. Bob Marley died at 78, and he's still just as relevant in my life as he was if he was someone I can talk to on a daily basis, as well as all the other ancestors behind me. And that now becomes the goal. It becomes, how do I live a life in peace in such a way that, like a Che Guevara or a Bob Marley, just their picture on a t-shirt says it all. You don't have to have no words with it. Somebody just has a picture on their shirt that conveys exactly what that person's intention was when they brought their picture.
So I'm over here like, mm, mm, I want to talk. So yes, absolutely. And again, the book I was talking about that I said I read 15 years ago was The Power of Now, right? And this is so. And then I was going to say Mariam Wilson, Return to Love, right? And The Power of Now, 15 years ago, I couldn't even fathom what I understood from a comprehension standpoint. But actually, like, I started thinking, maybe that only would work for people in a different economic status, or maybe that only works for this culture, or maybe this only works for that gender. Like, right, I started 15 years ago, I was only using that for those people. And again, to your point, I know what scene you're talking about, when she's at the doctor's office and she's talking. Well, this is one of many scenes, if it's not that scene, when she realized that she's not his only client, even if this is not the one. But there is a scene where she realized she's not his only client, and then he ends up with cancer. The doctor ends up with cancer too. That's a whole nother. We can have a whole podcast about that show in of itself because of how well it's written. But the point is exactly what you just said. Like, now is all. Now is it. Right now is that's it. Like, even if you think of all of the people that were well, that have lost their lives, and like, and cancer in of itself being a death sentence, we all have a death sentence. Like, that's what really, that was one of my takeaways. But again, I won't go down the rabbit hole about that, but I just want to shine light on that. The Power Now was the one that I was thinking about. So you went in here and you took it out and said it. I wanted to share that recently, I was on this class, and I can't believe I didn't know, because I love Marianne Wilson. I had no idea of our greatest fears. That's how I want to end today's meeting. I want to close with reading that. But go ahead.
Well, again, I just showed you that we're in alignment. So that's the whole thing. When I talk about that, people think it's some woo woo. You see, people intellectually understand, especially if you've been over 40 years old. You definitely familiar with a lot of the terms that we're gonna talk about, right? You definitely, have had your share of spirituality, whether you accept most of it, which you've already made your pretty much opinion on it. You know what meditation feels like. You tried it. You either do it or you don't do it. Yoga, you either don't do it or don't do it. Nature, you have your thoughts about that. So nothing new is being shared. It's just the fact that our goal with being fully human is raise your consciousness. It's that consciousness that you're growing, not your mind. And your mind's going to grow based on your consciousness. Because as your consciousness grows, it's going to force your mind to have to keep up with its growth in a higher vibration. And so, with that being said, what I realized that the way you live in now is by obtaining peace. Because see, once you understand that your life is no more important than anybody else's in the community, then you don't have to worry about the ego or protecting yourself. Because we talk through our whole lives about our protection, extraction. I got to be willing to, fight to the death. And I'm not saying just give up and let someone kill you. What I'm saying is you don't focus on protecting yourself until it happens. And then when it happens, you do what you got to do. But you don't let that become your dominant thought. You live in a mind of peace, and the universe brings you a choice you have to make. And the choice you're going to make is in the best interest of you and your family in that time, and that has to be made within that window. And you prepare yourself for that, but then you still move on forward with understanding that you want to live in peace. Peace is your default position, because the more peace you have, then the more creative liberation you can be at, and the more higher your vibration would be, especially if you combine that with the law of service and giving and helping other people. And then if you're doing those things most of the time, then life is going to be one that's full of enjoyment and bliss. And it's going to be one that leaves a legacy that has people remembering your name long after your spirit has actually left this planet.
And if you think of all of the people, that's a great point, King. I say when you think of all of the people whose legacy live on, is because of the message that they were saying. It was because of the work that they did. Like, people aren't uh known historically for, of course, and likewise with bad things too, but the concept of um the things that the things that people have done, and the legacy that it has created, it allows you to see crystal clear for me how important those things are. Like, the construct teaches us that the other things make more sense, right? Because it's built on so many other things. But I read a long time ago. This is when I was like grieving really hard, and it said when you are in that state, to do something good for somebody else, right? And for the life of me, I could not understand. Like, again, this is like where the reading versus implementation happens, right? So I started going to a nursing home, and I do service work all the time, but I'm talking in my downtime. I started going to a nursing home, and they take you through this long process. So by the time I finally got in, I wasn't even in the state I was in anymore, because they make you go through all these loopholes to go and work with elderly people. But anyway, I started going to play chess with this man, and he didn't have any family, and every time that I left there, I felt like I was the richest woman in the world, right? Because I realized there was just something in that moment. So I'm a firm believer about that, right? Like, servitude is one of the most important things in our journey, I believe. Like, it is. And even in structuring my businesses and everything that I do in my entrepreneurial ventures, are always centered around how will this help someone else? Because I already know that is going to be blessed for that reason, right? Like, how many jobs is this going to create? How many families is this going to support? That is the differentiating factor between a life well lived, I'll say. Like it's intrinsically rewarding to operate in that way.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is. And that's the thing about to continue to grow. Like right now, where at the level I'm at my stage in my life, I love learning, and I love the opportunity that I can continue to keep learning every single day. That's the blessing of being alive and having sound mind to understand what I am learning, and seeing how I also what's coming through me as being a vessel simultaneously. And what I mean in that is that when I learn things now, I learn things with a clarity where before I didn't have the clarity, I had the understanding. But now I got clarity to the point where it's as clear as why you look both ways before you cross the street. Right? It's just as clear as that. Like, I understand the logic of why you do that. There's no ambiguity of why I should look both ways. Like, sometimes I want to go look one way and then I still hope I get across the street. No, you gotta look both ways every time, right? And so it's that discipline as well, and that mindset to understand that you apply that to growth, that you have to continue to keep learning and growing and developing your conscious mind, because the universe and us being energy is in a constant state of motion. It's either decreasing or it's increasing. It's never a still state. So you have to be constantly in motion as well. The earth is constantly moving. Everything is in constant movement. So you either are improving or you are atrophying. There is no middle ground. So it's like if you sit around TV and you do that for 30 days or 2 months, you just sit down, then that's going to have an impact. You're going to gain more weight. You're going to get lazier. It's going to get harder for you to get up and move, and all that's going to be the impact of you just sitting around. Whereas the same token, if you got up and walked every day for 60 days, that's going to have an impact. So just staying in motion is the most important thing, and growth minded and reading and looking to use your mind to say, I'm only going to let things in that I want to learn as much as possible. You can't control everything that comes into your mind, because we live in a world where even if you don't watch social media and all those things, your family do, and they're going to bring the conversation to you. So you're not going to really escape it just because you don't discipline yourself that way. What you have to do is get to the point where it comes like a cloud. It comes in and goes right on out, and you just keep rolling.
Yeah, I've even had to have conversations with people as recent as yesterday. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like literally, like, look, I don't that like you don't have to remind me of what's happening on the stations that I don't watch. Right? Like, so I absolutely agree. And to that point, I think that um the that's the beauty of of learning how to become fully human, right? Because it really shifts your perception about everything that I do, like any, from um just you, like, it's almost like a new lens. Like, you start seeing everything, not almost, it is a new lens. You start seeing everything from that lens, and it changes. Like, um you gave the example earlier today about uh someone cutting you off and then wasting coffee on your outfit. Now, that would have been for me, if a reason to come on here and laugh. Like, man, like, so it just depends on your perception. For me, that was more so of like, I feel sorry for that other person, that somebody I need to pray for, because his life is that bad that somebody's, flicking the middle finger at you or cutting you off, pissed off. Like, they need to get, so many different things that can be happening for them. They might have just got bad news and didn't see you. And I'm always like in my own head making a mistake, cutting people off. People catch up with me to flick their finger at me because of something I did 4 lights ago that I didn't even notice I did, because I'm just not the best driver. Um, so I think it's definitely your perception.
Well, I say it's your vibration and your
Okay.
perception. The
Okay.
vibration governs that perception, right? And so this is what I'm going to build on as well, because I was going back to living in the now. And here's what I understand about living in the now that I did not understand it before. Like, there truly is no future, folks. That's, like I said, there really is not. It's just, you want to believe that. Then if you really have a control of the future, then tell me what's going to happen next. You can't, because it doesn't exist. And the
I'm
past is just a memory. If you
I'm
don't
curious.
believe,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
And the past is just a memory. The past doesn't exist either. As a matter of fact, you can test that out by asking someone else you did something with in the past to share their recollection of it, and you share yours. It's going to be different. It's not going to be the exact same thing. You both going to have a version of it that's not going to be exactly the way it was, because it no longer exists. And most of our thoughts are either a regret from the past or a hope for the future. And that's where most people live. And they spend very little time on enjoying the fact that right now, in this moment, there's flowers out there that's beautiful and that you can go look at them. And the fact that there's the ground, and you get this, and that you're teaching me this, and this is what helped me realize this, is that the earth, truly Mother Earth, that just by putting seeds in that, things grow. That's fascinating. We take that for granted. Like, okay, just put some seeds in the earth. But just think about the fact that this soil continuously continues to create life, which creates oxygen, which creates the environment, and it helps us breathe. And that's the science and architecture of this wonderful Mother Earth that you miss if you're thinking about future aspirations or past regrets.
Yeah, yeah. I, man, you said a mouthful. You said a mouthful. Um, as much as I enjoy, and I know I showed you my little life cycle the other day of my digging up the mealworm or whatever, the beetles and everything that happened in that moment. But that's just, you just said a mouthful. That's all I got for that. You said a mouthful. Cause I'm in this stage of this work, right? I'm looking forward to. I know that I need to stay in the now, and I'm still looking forward to what if I feel this good now. I'm still excited. I know this is contradictory to what you're saying, but I'm still in the process, right? I'm excited about what's next.
Well, the thing about it is you're human. That's what makes us human. There is no perfection. There is no, you get to a point where you're just not excited anymore as much. It depends on what it is, at what
I
stage in
don't
your
know.
life, and what the impact is, right?
A spirit
So,
A spiritual solution to every problem by Wayne Dyer says that you no longer get excited or disappointed. You just like this all the time. And I remember reading that like, nah, I like being excited. I'm gonna find stuff to get excited about.
well, see, the thing about that too is this: it's like what's exciting about things is the uncertainty,
Hmm.
right? So if you're certain, then there's no excitement. And what I believe, you become certain of that no matter what the situation is, I'm going to learn something from it. It's going to benefit me. That to me is the ease, the peace. I'm not going to ever look at it negatively. I'm never going to look at it as a victim. I'm never going to ask why did it happen to me. I'm always going to ask, what can I learn from this? What am I learning from this? Why am I, that's what I'm asking. So then that's going to put that energy in the universe, and then I'm going to get those answers.
Right. So that would fall under the biblical term that all things are working together for the good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's what we got to really begin to talk about how now, once we begin to think of it now, what are your thoughts that you're thinking? Right. So now you got to control those, because if you all just thinking about negative things about hate or judgment, which most of us are going to do. I mean, think about how many times you can walk into something like it's as chaotic as everybody knows the NBA is, whether you're DMV, MVA, the Motor Vehicle Administration in your city. And you go into that and you know how chaotic that can be. It's people everywhere, it's chaos. Everybody's energy is low or high because they either anxious to get out of there, disappointed they can't get certain things done, angry that they got to be there. So all their energy is in one room and going off at the exact same time all the time. And everybody knows it. When you go in there, you just so you open the door, it's like you feel that energy, right? Without even anybody having to say anything. And my only point is, unless you prepared yourself to have a state of mind of here's how I'm going to be, knowing that these are the conditions of that, then you allow yourself to be subject to the energy that other people in that room are giving you. And that's not going to be in your best interest. You're on mute if you say anything.
Oh, sorry about that. The kids were coming in. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree with you.
So now let me ask you this question. So, what are some of the things that you're doing on this 180-day journey to kind of help yourself grow as a spiritual being?
What am I doing? Man, what am I not doing? So I already had rituals that prior to this journey of getting up every morning, praying, getting grounded, um, getting one with Mother Nature, but I am so much more intentional about it. I know that even when I finish this 180-day journey, I'm going to do something else. Like I'm going to commit. I think this. I think 180 days is the start, but I think that for me it's going to evolve into something else, like another 90 days of this, or it's going to be some kind of increments. Maybe I'll use sacred geometry and it'll be in threes, and maybe 30 something, and I'll learn more about that. But right now, it's been making me, this 180-day journey has made me more patient, and it has made me more intentional with all of the work that I was setting out to do. um I prioritized it differently, right? Like working out, or eating right. Like, you, the clearer you are, the more you're able to see, right? Like, I see now what my triggers are when I want a snack that's no good for me, right? Like forgiveness, and I shared this with you one day before, that a part of this has allowed me to see that really truly what forgiveness really means. Like, it's not just about the other person. We say these things in these cliche terms, or things that we've heard people say, and then we realize, right, oh, that's what it means, right? Like, for me, forgiveness of myself, forgiveness of other people started making me eat better. Like, it was like other things started unfolding in my life. It started making me um more organized in my thoughts. The clarity that I am gaining um around life, and I am extremely creative. It's like there, I think women can attest to this. There's certain times of the month for us that our cycle does some type of thing where we are super productive, right? I'm in that space now. Quite often. Like, if you think Quentin, I said Quentin because he's at the door. Sorry about that. Well, King, we've been building for quite some time. I think that we are. This is the first time that I have been this consistent with making sure I make our meetings, making sure that I get you back what you need on time. Like, I've been extremely consistent because I'm lightning focused on the well-being of children everywhere, the, like, really, like, understanding my purpose, understanding, finding my voice is what you refer to it as, but really finding my voice has given me so much more clarity and creativity around things that I want to do, things that I've been wanting to do, things that I've been meaning to do. But I believe that the intentionality around self development is making everything outside of me blossom, including my garden. My garden this year is freaking amazing. Like, if my garden is a reflection of what I'm doing in life, then I'm looking really, really good right now. I mean, everything is blooming on time, full, vibrant. Um, I don't even have any weeds right now. Like, anybody that does gardening know that, this is the time they'll start trying to come up and choke them out. But yeah, so that's what the 180-day journey has been doing for me. Is really getting me grounded in, and I'm doing other things too. So just to add, like, I'm doing a whole self-care with another organization that's really helping me get into my health. I hired a nutritionist to help me think through understanding what I'm eating, what I'm doing, because I know that if I'm at my optimal, then I have the energy to give to others. If I'm taking care of me and I'm keeping that balance, then I have the balance of being able to support um um the families that I'm here to serve.
Right. And see, that's important that you stay growth minded. That's one of the things that I find to be one of your strongest attributes is that you consistently want to grow, want to improve, want to be a better person, understanding that you have an impact on young people, children's lives, and showing up to be the best person you can be, the best human being you can be, says a lot about you and your character. And it'd be great if other people in the child care business thought that way, as opposed to just doing it because of the fact that it's money to be made. I don't know why I'm hearing that. It's some feedback on it. Can you?
I can't hear it.
Uh, well, one of the things that other people don't do in your field is bring that level of self awareness to them. And that's one of the six pillars of fully human is self awareness, understanding of the impact your behaviors and actions have on the lives of others. And if you're going to be a teacher or you're going to be a person in a position of helping other young people grow up and mature and develop, then you should be a person of kind spirit, good heart, and fully human identity, is what I believe.
Absolutely. So that's the great that you brought that up. Because definitely childcare is not just about babysitting. It's definitely brain development, and definitely love has to be the culture. Um, One of the things that we have built out is our licensing model. So the licensing model encompasses all of those things: the culture, the love culture, the not just babysitting that we are developing brains. Our facilities are designed to support brain development. The teachers are trained to do such a thing. So this won't just be a learning how model. This will be a model that's going to change the world through early encounters. So while some programs do exist, we're going to see to it that all programs exist in that capacity, because we are definitely at the critical area of development where folks need this kind of thing. Like when you think of all of the things that we've been unlearning, like I mean, I realize now that I'm cognizant of it, I see how often it shows up, right? Like even things like fear or doubt or worry, like I'm like, where is that coming from? It's because of that past blueprint that I let be imprinted that says that I failed last time, so I'm going to fail again, right? So I have to talk to that. But when I, my children, my babies here, when they think about taking a rocket to the moon and when they put on that astronaut costume, there's nothing that makes them think that they can't do it unless one of us tell them they can't, right? And so it's just as simple as helping people to understand that. And I think that that's something that's going to resonate with anybody that's ready. And that's who the Learning House licensing model is for, is people that are ready, right? Where it's that aha, it clicks when you say, why would tell me something you're afraid of, right? And when people go back into things that they're afraid of, they don't know most of the time they don't know the root of why they're afraid. Or I was bit by a dog when I was 3, so I've always been afraid of big dogs, right? But that was 50 years ago, right? You haven't you There's been so many dogs since then. So all of those things are just unlearning, whereas we are at a pivotal, great, monumental time to be sharing space with little people and helping shape them in a way that they don't have to unlearn anything. They can go out here fearlessly and believe that they can be anything that they imagine they can be. They know the possibilities that await them are grand, and that's one of the things. And we're doing it in real time. Just the plug that we're taking families out of town. We're visiting the embassies of Botswana. We just got invited to the embassy of Ghana. So we're expanding them beyond what they typically see in their community. So when they do when they have, so they'll have the tools to be able to see that there's more to life than just their community. There's service in their communities. There's ways to support other people, and that their community is resource rich. Like they have things that and I just I'm all over the place because I got a whole bunch of thoughts in my mind because I'm just being that creative. But I think even understanding and having the blinders on, one of the classes that I took recently was asset-based community development. And one of the things that they helped me to appreciate was that the gifts that are already there, like I think social media and all of these things have played such have such an influence on people being comfortable with their life that they're comparing themselves to things all the time. I think if we remove those things, taking those kind of technologies away and only using technology as it should be used to enhance and support development, then we'll see drastic changes in allowing our little people to, because they're already fully human. We're just getting back to it. So that's that.
Well, you led an excellent segue into a graphic I want to show on the screen, and let me know if you can see this graphic.
It's loading. Yes, I see it.
And so this is the graphic that I created along with my AI tools, of course, that represents the triangle, the triad that's happening in the head. And this is how the construct tells us that our triangle is there. And this is wrong information. But the misalignment has us functioning where our head is the top of a triangle, the strategy. So it means we look at everything logically and we make our decisions logically, but then we act on our heart. So we don't even listen to our logical brain when it comes to things like consumerism and shopping. We all buy off emotions. We act off emotions. And then the soul is down here getting drainage, not having any support because the head and the heart are blocking the signal and blocking the energetic alignment that has to happen when the soul is at the top. And I'll show that in a second. But I wanted to show this is the scrambled signal of the constructs programming. It is having people function through logic first, their heart second, and then, like I said, the soul's down there not being even considered in the equations of thinking and strategizing. And so I'm going to share one other screen here in a second to show how it looks in alignment. And this is why this is important. This is a 180-day journey process is to bring about the alignment of actually putting the soul in its rightful position, which is showing you here at the top. The soul should be the top of the triangle because the soul, everything gets filtered through the soul. The soul is how we're connected quantumly. That's where we're quantumly connected to our souls. And so the true order of things should be information signals get sent from the creator, from the universal essence through the soul where we're connected that fits our heart. And then our heart guides our servant leader brain. And our brain is a servant leader that serves based off the heart and the soul's guidance and wisdom. And this is the when you have energetic alignment in your head, I mean in your body, this is what it looks like and it operates in this area. And so what you were saying before about why people do certain things is because their shadow, as Jung talks about, their shadow element is the one that's controlling their identity. And that's when you're out of alignment with your head, heart, and then soul being last. So give you some time to respond to that. Then we get ready to wrap up our show today.
So I have some questions that I'll probably say, but I think when I think of I always try to think of people that are in like marginalized communities, right? Or that are just in survival, right? Or in situations already, right? I always think to myself like those concepts for me make sense because of where I am in life, right? But if I was hungry, if I was, this goes to those like the not psychological but the not physiological, it's on the tip of my tongue, those aspects that determine your integrity versus, like the young man who his dad can't afford medicine, right? And he goes and robbed the pharmacy, right? Like I always think like for those individuals, like this always feels like this works once you're at a certain place in your life.
What's that?
Like the being being able to, this was probably a terrible way to end. I probably should these questions offline, because I'm still learning, and so this will be authentic for somebody that may be learning too. So there's no mistake. So like when you have the individual that's dealing with those situations in those moments, how realistic is it to be fully human in those moments? I guess, which is an ugly question, but it's a real one.
No, it's not an ugly question. It's a real question. Absolutely. See, fully human is not something that you could just be. You have to become fully human, and it's a journey that you put yourself on. You on a 180 day journey are realigning your. Can you do me a favor? Can you turn your mic off for 1 second? Yeah. So what you're doing on a 180 day journey is that you are putting yourself on a journey to become fully human, which is to adhere to these 6 pillars, which is controlling your identity. Do you own your mind first and foremost? Second, being growth mindset. Third, being a higher purpose serving. Four is grateful spirit. Five is governing principles. And six is self-awareness. Now, a person who hasn't undergone the regular level of human emergence or not even thinking about these pillars or any kind of mind about being fully human at all. They're just being human, but they're going to be trapped in the identity that the contract told them who they are. So they're fighting between their race identity, their gender identity, their societal totem that your parents are maybe drug addicts, so they fight with their identity. You're the son of a drug addict, so you're a druggie. So all these negative labels they have to battle with in their shadow consciousness before they even think about becoming fully human at all. So fully human is like the PhD that a person has to work towards to get there. And that requires growth and learning and all those things throughout your life journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you for that. Because I definitely wouldn't have been ready for this journey 20 years ago. Like when I think of, so you're right, I get it. I always have compassion though, and it makes me think about the families that I serve, right? When I think of like, how can I be a better support to them. I think sometimes I have the propensity to want to help people fast forward because I can see their potential. I see that they're a great person. I see like, okay, the only thing you need to do now is this and this, like so I can get stuck in seeing potential and wanting to speed up the process, but there's no doing that. Now you already know me well enough to know that you cannot not tell me what part of the movie you were talking about. That so I need you to tell me that.
I'm talking about the very last scene in the movie. So that's why you don't want to know about that. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh,
The very last scene in the series, what I'm saying? So you don't really want to know. I ruined it all. I mean, you know what's going to happen. That's the whole purpose of the show. So you know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of how they play it out. And they do a great
but
job of
I
how they
don't.
play it out.
You're right. You're right. I don't. Usually, I like to ruin a movie. This one, I don't want to. I wanna. I'm gonna get to it tonight, though. I'm gonna finish it. This will definitely be a topic when we talk Thursday.
I bet you don't get through it all.
Okay.
And we'll
You
we'll
know when
see.
somebody tell me what I won't do, that's if that was your way of getting me to finish it, you won.
I'm just saying it's emotionally intense. It's a lot to try to watch back to back. But if you get through it, then you get through it.
I'm on the last season.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't deny you. I know you can do it. Definitely put whatever you put your mind to. As we get ready to wrap up our show, I just want to say this as we give our closing thoughts. We want to lift up somebody who we believe is fully human. An example of someone who we believe is fully human, right?
Oh, right,
So
right, right.
I want to say my closing thoughts on this as well. That in my study and my research in the fully human framework, there's 3 tiers to human emergence. Everybody starts off at tier one, which is the liver, the experiencer. Everyone's there. And that's tier one. You've been given your identity by the construct and you accept that full heartedly, full throatedly. As a matter of fact, you stand on pride on it. Like you're black and you're proud, or you're gay and you're proud, or you're Jewish and you're proud, or you're a woman and you're proud, and you stand in it and you ride on that. And that's fine. I'm not judging anybody. And there's the second tier, which is the seeker. That's somebody usually hits around 40 years old when a person says there got to be more to life than this. I've gone through this identity thing my whole life. It's not rewarding. I'm not feeling fulfilled. There's got to be something more. That's tier two. That's the seeker. And then tier three is a co-creator. That's when you can actually now co-create with other people enacting your normal essence as how you were brought here to be on this planet as co-creators, and that's what we are. So those are the three tiers of human emergence. We'll get more into that in our next show, but I just want to point that out. So anyone who's on tier one, it's not about judging somebody, it's just recognizing where they are and be able not expect co-creation activities from a person at tier one. Right, that's the only point I'm making. You have to understand who you're dealing with and how best to deal with these individuals, recognizing what tier they are at. And so now, unless you have any comments about that, we can move on to our last segment.
No, I do have two things. I told you I wanted to read a poem,
Oh,
a quick
yes, right.
poem, and I had a closing statement, but I can save my closing statement for the end. But whenever you're ready, I can share the poem.
Let's share it now.
So I was again the strong brother Ron Hands that you introduced me to a while back. I am really enjoying the space that I'm sharing with them and the fully human individuals that are in that space. And one of them that I'm remiss that I didn't follow up with, that I will do that today, shared this poem that just really struck me. So I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it like I'm in my third grade dramatic reading contest. Because that's what it felt like to me. So our deepest fears is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fears is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others, people won't feel insecure around you. We are born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it is not in, I'm sorry, it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williams.
Okay, thank you. That your mic, please. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's definitely something that's um, I can look at and feel the energy of someone who's writing that and their intentionality behind lifting up someone's spirit and their energy. And that's really what fully human comes down to as we wrap up today's show. Is about being fully human is about adhering to four core principles, and then these six pillars at the bottom, which we grow towards. Number one, it's energy is everything, and everything is energy. Number two, energy is a constant state of motion, either it's a draining or as an increasing. There is no other state of motion. Number three, we focus on the increase. And number four, we identify as fully human, right? We don't identify by our race, our ethnicity, our religion, our career, our trauma, our state, our country, all sexual orientation, all these divisive things that construct told us. Those are descriptions of who we may be as fully human. So we're not denying that at all, but we just don't let that determine our perspective on life. We don't view ourselves or through the world through those lenses. So that's the fully human perspective. So that what you share is in alignment with someone with the fully human thinking and the fully human framework. So with that being said, you want to get your closing thoughts, and then we're going to enter our last segment of lifting up somebody, giving flowers of who we want to be fully human.
Oh, I'm gonna let you go first on that. I'll close with my closing statement, but I gotta think. I forgot about it, but I'm sure someone will come to me. I'm glad. I really like closing that way. That's exciting. So, I just wanted to say, if you want to change the world, we have to start early, not just with children, but with how we see them, how we raise them, and how we allow them to remain fully human. That's the work, and I'm committed to it. That's one of the reasons why we have we do this work.
Absolutely. And to that point, you got children out there who won't have to go forth having the 50% drainage on their energy, fighting from within that false description that's not real. And you don't believe me it's not real, check the records. They didn't come up with any written record of the race being as a classification until 1676, based on the Bacon Rebellion, with his minister Bacon organized uh, slaves as well as poor whites together to fight against the at that time the power structure, and the power structure can have that. So they realized they had to separate poor whites from blacks, and they created a racial hierarchy, and it started there for that reason. So it's not something that was always here since God created Earth. We're not black, white, and all these things. So anyway, as I wrap up, I want to share with you my person I want to lift up as being fully human, and I hold it. I've measured them against these six pillars that are here on the screen for you all to see at the bottom of our screen. I'll list them out as well. So the person I want to lift up today as being fully human is, and it's funny because I'm watching on PBS, This How the Universe Works, is Henry David Thoreau, who was a transcendentalist as well as a writer, uh, a person who believed in solitude. He was able to he had this humanity where some people would say he wasn't as evolved on certain issues when it came to Native American rights, but he was definitely an abolitionist as well. And to me, he was growth minded and looking for ways to grow. And his identity was someone, even though he was of the Caucasian, as they would say, white race, he didn't identify by his privilege as much as he identified by being a human being and being in love with nature. And having a growth mindset allowed him to continue to grow throughout life and continue to learn. And he wanted to learn from nature. He was actually taught one of the best ways to learn is to go out in nature and let nature teach you, right? He had higher purpose in serving through his life by, again, being an abolitionist and fighting against slavery, which he felt that Africans should not be. They felt that everybody who was born had a hint of divinity in them. And if you were to lock someone up or marginalize or oppress someone, then you're oppressing that light of divinity that's in them. Um, his grateful spirit, he was grateful for his ability to get in solitude and write at his cabin. And that's what he wrote Walden Pond, and everybody who's familiar with him understands his literature and the time he spent there, and just his understanding of how he looked at life and viewed life, his governing principles on where he stood about being kind, about his being as loving and connected to love energy as much as possible. And then finally, his self awareness of understanding his impact in the world and in the marketplace and the ecosystem as he used his platform to advocate for justice for the things he did believe in and for humanity.
Thank you for that. You made me that was great. And I really appreciate you being that detailed about why you were giving him his flowers. Mine's won't be that thorough. However, um yours gave me words and an idea of who I wanted to lift up, and I'm pulling them up now because most of the work that we do um is has been um hold on. So not only does the construct have its nuances on what it does, it sometimes discredits some of the people that do the work along the way as well, right? So you don't like so when curriculum is created or taught, the capitalism of that sector um only gives recognition to a mainstream person, right? So, in early child care, there's tons of research based under Montessori and Reggio Emilio curriculum, And I just want to acknowledge the people that don't get acknowledged. Like, we hear about Montessori curriculum as being one of the greatest curriculums. A lot of people send their children to those space, and it is an amazing curriculum. And there were women that predate Montessori um that did great work on advocating for that same type of nature-based play. So the person um that I want to lift up is going to be um it's so many of them, but I'm going to choose one, and it's going to be Patricia Collins. She wrote Black Feminist thought and community knowledge. She was centered on wisdom for Black women in shaping children and culture. And one of her famous work is called the backyard classroom, right? So getting out in nature, planting, learning about nature, learning through play. So there are plenty of other people other than just Montessori that, like I said, predate Maria Montessori. And so I just want to lift up Patricia Collins as someone that I want to give their flowers.
Excellent. Well, gratitude for sharing that. As we wrap up our show today, we want everyone to continue to learn how to be more fully human. This show is going to come at you every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next Tuesday at 12 p.m., let's all continue to learn how to be more fully human.